Good morning, friends, and welcome back to Rocky Mountain Gardens. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some restoration projects for some of the garden pieces that I have out in my yard. Now, we have a problem with sun fading here in Colorado. I'm not sure if you do where you live for your garden pieces, your sort of artwork that we like to have out in our garden, decorating everything. But that's what I see happening here. So I have several projects here that I'm going to share with you, and the magic of paint can take an old worn piece and make it look brand new, which you will see in my projects today. So if you're new here, I say a big welcome to you to my channel, Rocky Mountain Gardens. And my name is Mary. And so we're going to jump right in today to these projects and see how that magical paint can change your pieces, and you don't have to throw them away. You can just restore them. So let's get started on these. I have two metal yard ornaments that I'm going to freshen up with some paint. This large daisy-like piece. And then I have a stake here. You can see the bottom of it right there. And it really needs some help as well. So those are two projects we'll be working on right now. I am starting with the under petals here using a pretty purple colored acrylic paint. You can see that the petals were a purple color but were faded out by the sun. I've mentioned this before, but our summertime sun is so strong because we're at higher altitude. There's less atmosphere to filter out the sun's rays. So for example, it's very easy to get a sunburn here if you're not used to it, or even if you are. We all try to remember to put on our sunscreen because a sunburn can happen quickly here. And it affects all of your garden designs and pieces of decorations and so on. So every once in a while, like every 2-3 years or so, I have to freshen up all of my garden art. If you've been following me for a while, you might know that orange is not one of my most favorite colors. So I'm taking this bright yellow color and using it to paint these petals with a solid bright shade, and I think I'll like it much better. This second row of petals, I'm using a sort of a pale pink color to freshen them up as well. Lastly, the center of the flower is being painted with a bright green shade. And now I will have a very colorful stake to add to my garden. I'm going to change out the orange color on this butterfly, which is sitting on one of the leaves, with the same purple that I used on some of the petals. And yellow and purple are good contrasting colors, so I think this will be something I'll like much better than orange. And here's where I have placed the flower stake in my garden. It's actually in my side yard. Now you can see on this second piece of yard art, which is like a many petal flower. I'm using the same purple color, and I'm sort of feathering it as I go toward the edges, so I'm not covering up all of the blue tips on the petals. And will take me quite a while. There are like 4 layers of petals on this flower that I'm going to be hanging on my fence out back. And so it will be a process, but it will be so much better and not so faded once I'm done. Now I'm painting the center of the flower with a bright yellow color, which I think really brightens up the flower with the dark purple shade. Here you can see my purple flower hanging on the side fence. So here I wanted to share with you this doll's table and chairs. It's actually from the American Doll set you may be familiar with. My daughter had these when she was a little girl and of course played with them, and they got a little bit beat up. So right now I'm going to use this same mixture here in my jar to give it a darker stain and take away some of that sort of orangey color that it has on it. Make it a little bit darker for my future use. So let's get started on staining. So we're going to begin with this first chair, putting on a coat of my wax mixture, and then I will wipe it back with a soft cloth. Here you can see the difference between the walnut color that I'm using and this very orange wood tone that the table came with. You can see that I've turned the table upside down, so I'll do the underneath part first and then we'll flip it over to do the top. Here's a finished view of the table and chairs, and I can't wait for you to see it out in my garden this summer. This park bench has been out in my fairy garden for a number of years, and you can see it's not looking very well. So I am painting it today with this bright green chalk paint. I had first outside, of course, cleaned it up really well, got all the spider webs off and tightened up all the joints with the bolts that were holding it together. And so now I'm giving it the first coat of this chalk paint, and you all know that with chalk paint, you can really do a great job with sometimes just one coat. And so we'll see how this works out. Here is my finished child's bench, park bench that is. I have given it 2 coats of polyurethane to protect it in the sun, although it will be sitting under a tree in my garden, in the fairy garden area. This is a really gorgeous tray that I picked up at the thrift store, one of our charity local shops. And it's actually a Pier 1 piece. Look at this great detail around the edges. And I think I paid about $4.50 for it. But it does have some areas that need a second paint job. I have some leftover paint from a previous project. This gallon is almost full. So I'm going to be painting my tray this white color here, and I will just jump right in. One coat of the paint and my tray looks brand new. Pure white. Isn't that pretty? White is a perfect color when you're planning to do Mod Podge on top. And I will be using this beautiful hydrangea patterned napkin to place in the bottom and really make it colorful. I've already removed the second ply of the napkin, and now we'll begin putting on the Mod Podge. So I'm doing 1/2 of the tray, and let's see if we can start applying our napkin. Okay, right here is where I stopped applying the Mod Podge, so we'll put a coat on the second half of the tray. And here's a second piece to continue, applying it right here. I have a small ball of wrap, plastic wrap, and I'm going to use it to smooth out all of the areas. And if I have a few little creases in my napkin, it's okay, because what will happen is it will blend in with this very busy pattern. Next, I'll go ahead and apply a cover coat to the entire area. So, as you can see, I have some of the paper that is hanging over the edges of the bottom of the tray, and I'm going to let this dry overnight, and I'll come back and cut off these extra pieces. Well, I'm sorry to say I made a little mess on the edges here that I'm going to have to work to clean up. And after I've got that done perfectly to my liking, I'm going to be using this matte clear finish. I'll give it 2 coats to protect this decoupage napkin for use in the summertime in my garden. And here's how it looks out on the coffee table of my back porch. I have placed some of my decor in it, and I think it looks really cute. Today I have 2 birdhouses that I'm going to be sprucing up. This one, which had this cute decoration on it, kind of went like that. And I'm going to be repainting this, repainting the roof, and also then when everything's dry, hot gluing this back onto the birdhouse. Now, this is a birdhouse that my daughter gave me some years ago, and it's specifically a bluebird house, and it needs to be repainted, and I want this roof to be sealed better, so I'll be working on that as well. First, I am freshening up the petals on this decoration with this bright pink acrylic paint, and we'll get them done, and sure will look brighter and more eye-catching. And next I'm using a bright green color of paint to really make these little leaves look nice and bright as well. Lastly, for this particular birdhouse, I am using the same bright pink paint to redo the roof of the birdhouse. And guys, it's really going to look so darling hanging from my blue spruce tree, uh, which is in the fairy garden area. And this will be put up for my garden tour. So I have cleaned up this birdhouse. It looks so much better now with its new pink roof. After I painted this, I'm now going to attach it onto the birdhouse with hot glue. And it's been my experience in watching other YouTubers that hot glue does a good job holding things in place outdoors. All right, so now that the hot glue has cooled and it is attached firmly, I'll let this sit overnight. And of course, I'm going to wait till a little later in the spring to put out my decorations because, you know, here in Colorado, we have March and April snowfalls very, very commonly. Here's my newly freshened up birdhouse hanging in my blue spruce tree, right in the corner of my backyard. Here you can see that the front part of this bluebird house is very faded from the sun. And it has a pretty floral design on that front area. So I'm going to be taking a very slow process here and painting around those flowers so I can preserve them and they'll look pretty on this birdhouse again. And as you can see, I'm using a very fine brush because I'm going to have to go around all the details of these florals. So painting this was a rather tedious job. I really had to take my time. As you can see here, I've made quite a bit of progress working around the florals, but oh my goodness, I just had to be patient until I got it finished. So next is the roof of the birdhouse, and I'm using my wax mixture here. Like I've said before, it is part dark brown wax, part water, and a little dab of ink chalk paint. from Waverly is what I use. And guys, you can see that this poor roof is so weathered and really extremely on the weathered side. And so I'm going to make it look brand new with this wax mixture. And of course it will protect the wood as well. And now for the top of the gable of the birdhouse, I'm going to be using the same blue paint that I used on the front area and just doing it easily with a small brush and adding paint to the brush directly to save a little bit on some cleanup. But here I'll complete this job and my birdhouse will be close to being finished. And so friends, on the next photo you will see my lovely bluebird house hanging on my garden fence. And guys, thank you so much for sticking through this rather long video as I did my different projects. And I hope you enjoyed them and got some ideas for your own garden. So this is Mary saying once again, bye for now.